what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more.
Hello, how are we doing? Happy Monday night, happy off season. I'm fired up. We got another good show for you guys here tonight. Super fun stream. I've been itching to talk about this for a while. We are going to be previewing NFL free agency, taking a look at the upcoming class. Going to be playing some matchmaker, right? Maybe linking a few players to spots that I might like for them, as well as just kind of previewing the class as a whole. Maybe looking at how much some of these guys might be getting paid, some of the guys that I like, some of the guys that I think might be getting paid a little bit too much. Reacting to the iconic Greg Rosenthal Free Agency 101, the top 101 free agents. Now, I don't think we're going to get through every single 101 of the whole list, but we'll break it down a little bit. I've always got some takes about that. I've always got a lot of stuff to say with that. We did that last year and it was a lot of fun. But as always, y'all know the drill. If you're in here, feel free to say hello in chat. Looks like we got a good crew in here already. We have got Jack, we've got Ron, and Eagle Eyes. Let's go indeed. Appreciate y'all tuning in here tonight. Monday night off-season streams. The new norm, right? The weekly off-season streams are back. And of course, we're also going to be hitting some news because some stuff has happened in these past few days. We're already starting to see some of these dominoes fall here. Already a couple of big moves being made, especially the one that went down this morning, which I've got some thoughts about, and I'm excited to talk about that. But getting settled back in here, I mentioned this last week, I've been like low-key sick a little bit, like not like contagious or like dreadfully sick, didn't have a temper or anything, but just a little congestion, a little cough, stuff like that. So that's kind of hindered my ability to record as much of my videos as I'd have liked. We're getting there though. This week it's going to happen for sure. I've got the day off on Friday, so we're locking in for that. But been just preparing for the draft and for free agency. I've actually finally started diving into some of these prospects here and started watching some of these guys. I had some free time at the airport last week, so threw on some of the tape. But I'm curious, what are y'all's thoughts on this free agency class before we really get into it in chat? What are people thinking? Honestly, I think it's a pretty good class this year. Does anyone have any like big free agency takes or predictions or anything like that? I'm curious. But overall, I'm doing well. I can't complain. The weather's been nice. I love this time of year. I love springtime. Not just the weather, but I think it's a great time to be a sports fan. I mean, you've got March Madness, you've got playoff basketball, playoff hockey, you've got the Champions League late season, football, European soccer matches, you've got the NFL draft, you've got free agency. Spring is honestly probably my favorite season, so I'm chilling right now. But we're just going to dive right into it. I get what you're saying, Jack. There are a lot of big free agents for the Seahawks, and I kind of like that take that Job is the one that sticks around. Dude, he's good. He's good. I wouldn't say that he's maybe like the best free agent that they have, but he's very good, and the coaching staff likes him. And I think from a value standpoint, that would make sense. I could get down with that. Ron is worried about Pickens, that he will resent being franchise tagged. Yeah, I get that. You kind of worry about maybe like effort and attitude with Pickens a little bit. I think it's good that they at least tagged him now and they're not like having him out literally in the open market, but you still got to get a deal done with him, right? You hope that Jerry maybe has finally learned his lesson after the Micah fiasco from last offseason. Eagle Eyes doesn't have any crazy hot takes, but he could see Levis joining the Jags to reunite with Cohen. I actually love that take. I had never even thought about that link, but that makes sense because Levis and Cohen were together for a minute at Kentucky. And, the Jags could always use just like another quarterback in there. Heaven forbid Trevor ever goes down, right? You maybe want to take a swing at one of those high upside guys. That also seems to be one of the metas right now is if you're an organization that has respect in the NFL, especially if you've got like a good offensive-minded coach, and people kind of respect the way you do things, that alone can kind of boost the stock of a quarterback a little bit. I mean, think about what happened when Sam Darnold went to the 49ers. Sam barely played when he was with the 49ers, but that sort of seemed to clean up his image a little bit. All of a sudden, the Vikings bring him in, and it's like, oh, like Sam Darnold, he's been with the 49ers. Maybe he's learned a thing or two. There's always been the talent. Maybe he finally got coached up well. Daniel Jones went to the Vikings, and Daniel Jones was with the Vikings for a few months. Like, maybe he learned a thing or two. Let's take him a little bit more seriously now. Oh, Mac Jones has been with the 49ers. I actually kind of like that. At the very least for the Jags, they bring in Will Levis. Maybe this is dumb, but that alone could probably like boost his trade value a little bit. If the Jaguars were to sign Will Levis and he just rode the bench for a year, that almost might entice a team to trade for him more, as crazy as that sounds. So I actually love that. I never even thought about that, but we might have to throw that in here when we're matchmaking now. Like that just makes sense to me. I like that. Oh, we'll get to that, Jack. We will get to that, Jack, because I've got some thoughts about that as well. I like it. That's what I'll say. I can get down with it. All right. Let's just get into the news. There is honestly like a good amount to talk about here. And I alluded to it earlier. We'll just jump in to the big thing that went down today. I saw it on my phone during work. And if anyone is watching, I was on my phone checking a message on Ring when the notification popped up, right? I'm not on my phone during work. And I've actually had bits about that before my last job. But at this job, like I actually am not allowed to be on my phone at work. But unless it's to check messages. But the Houston Texans making a big swing. Turns out the smoke was actually real. Turns out there was actually some truth to these rumors. The Houston Texans bringing in David Montgomery in a trade with the Detroit Lions. Looks like they gave up a decent amount for it, right? Juice Scruggs as well as 2 picks. I believe the highest pick was a 4th-round pick. Yep. 2026 4th-round pick, and then next year a 7th-round pick, as well as just a depth piece on the offensive line. I feel like this is a pretty good trade for both sides, all things considered. That is a pretty good haul for the Lions to get in return for what essentially is their RB2, even though he's a very, very good RB2. Monty's getting a little bit older. He's got some tread on his tires. Just the way he plays to his running style, how good he is as a blocker, that might lend itself to him maybe aging a little bit quicker, right? Also, he's never had like more than 300 carries in a season. He's getting up there as far as carries go, right? I still think he played pretty well last year, though, even though his workload was, the least it's ever been with Detroit. I still think he played really good football last year. So I like Houston getting what I think is a good player. That is a lot to give up, though. Jack is saying it's kind of weird. He feels like he doesn't like the move for either team. It's funny. I think I'm in the opposite. I kind of, for the most part, I like this move for both teams. I'm curious what your rationale is for that. I'm assuming it's probably the Lions lose out on a good player and the Texans gave up a lot for like a good player, but do you really want to give up that much for a 28-year-old running back? I think that's an understandable stance to have. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just totally assuming, like, you might be thinking something different, but and we've got Mile Marker in here as well, a Lions fan. So I'm curious, Mile Marker, what's your take on this trade? I like this a good amount for the Texans just because it's nice to get like an actual talented back in there. I think Monty is so good. He's so balanced. He's a good north-south runner, but he has a little bit of explosiveness to him too, right? I remember streaming that Monday Night Football game, Lions versus Ravens this past season. Monty ripped off a few big runs. You're like 4.5 yards per carry. That's a pretty good clip, right? Longest run of the season, 72 yards. He's got a few long runs throughout his career. He can break away a little bit. He's definitely more of a power guy than a speed guy, but you can't say that he doesn't have it in his game. He's a phenomenal blocker. He's an underrated receiver. And just all around seems like a great guy. Good guy to have in the locker room. Houston has just been starving for a good running game for a few years now. I mean, man, like that backfield, Mixon has been all right, but he's been injured and unreliable and a bit of a disappointment. Chubb is Chubb at this point. He's just kind of washed. Woody Marks was all right, but I like getting in another guy to kind of round things out a little bit. And I think especially with some of the offensive line struggles that Houston has had, Maybe this is a dorky thing to like, but I really do like getting like a A+ pass protector in the backfield. I do think that will help things out a little bit. So I like that for Houston. Lions get a good haul for an older back with a lot of tread on his tires. And I think if you're Detroit, you got to make some tough decisions with just all the guys that you've had to pay recently. That is a tough decision you had to make moving on from Monty. And you might feel it a little bit this year just because, I mean, it is worth pointing out, like, having Montgomery there, I think really did help Gibbs. And I think the world of Gibbs. I would say, like, honestly, I would say Jahmyr Gibbs might be like the second best back in the NFL. But it is nice when he doesn't have to, block on third down. It is nice when he doesn't have to like ram his head into a pile of dust for 2 yards when it's 4th and 1, It is kind of nice when he doesn't have to do all that. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that meme before. It's like, my hands look like this, so hers look like that. And it's like, some construction worker with like calluses and dirt and bruises on his hands. And then presumably his wife, just like fresh pedicure, right? That was kind of the situation a little bit with Monty and Gibbs. Like, Monty definitely took a lot of licks so that Gibbs didn't have to. So it can be easy to say, like, wow, Gibbs is going to go for 2,000 yards now that Monty's not there. The job might get a little bit harder for him, too. And I also wouldn't be shocked if the Lions just brought in another back, too. I wouldn't expect Gibbs to necessarily get like 350 carries now, but I don't know. We'll see. Mile Marker is saying Chicago fans loved him. So do Lions fans. Houston's going to love him too. I mean, yeah, he's such a tank. I just love the way he plays. I love his attitude. I love the way he goes about things. He's a very complete back. Not the sexiest player, but man, he checks a lot of boxes. I'm a big fan of his game. We got Ruck Fools back in here as well. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Good to have you back in here. Saying the GOAT is back. Hey, man, let's go. I appreciate it. Let's go. Saying if you were the Lions, you would have tried to get at least a third rounder. Whew, I mean, hey, like, I'm sure they probably tried, right? The fact that they got 2 picks and a player is pretty nice, though. And you know what? Juice Scruggs isn't like anything crazy, but getting another body in there in the offensive line when, they've had injury problems in the past, a lot of young guys coming in and out of there. Just getting another body in there, I like. That's nice. That's nice. Jack hates it for the Texans. Could have signed one of the several quality running backs in free agency. That's fair. That's probably the best argument you can make against the Texans making this trade. It is a pretty good free agent class for the running backs. I guess, I don't know. If I had to justify it for Houston, and obviously neither of us know this, right? But if I had to guess, internally they might have thought already, like, yeah, we're not getting one of these guys, right? I mean, if we're going to keep it a buck, a lot of these free agent deals, it's just kind of crazy how they're always, like, instantly announced as soon as the legal tampering window opens, right? Like, a lot of the stuff gets worked out at the combine. I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, right after the combine ends, Houston's like, yeah, we're not getting one of these guys. All right, we'll trade for Monty. But I mean, that would have been like the better value play, probably. Just like signing one of those vet free agent running backs, not having to give up draft picks. Sure, I get that. But Texans gave up that much for a 28-year-old running back to play behind a bottom 3 line, and now it feels like Gibbs' prime is going to be shortened with an upcoming heavier workload. Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, yeah, it was just so nice having that wrecking ball there with Gibbs, right? There's just such an underappreciated luxury that the Lions had. And if they don't address it, because here's the thing, maybe the Lions address this, maybe they go get one of the free agent running backs, maybe they draft a guy, Brad Holmes could cook up something and they could like find the next David Montgomery in the 4th round now with the pick that they just got. I do hope for the Lions' sake and for Gibbs' sake that they do bring in that second guy, and I just feel like the way they've operated under Campbell and Holmes, they probably will, but that would be a mistake in my opinion if they're just like, all right, Gibbs, 400 touches for you now, 350 carries and like 60 catches, go get him, Tiger. Like, nah, that's how you ruin your back quicker than he should be, and that's how the yards per carry goes down from like 6 to like only 4.3, which is still really good, but Texans just love signing old running backs. That is true. It's kind of like the Titans and wide receivers, right? What do you think about like some of the backs Texans have brought in? Mixon, Chubb, now Monty. Yeah, they really do have a type, don't they? Yeah, that's fair. Hmm. Could backfire on the Texans this move. Yeah. It's like weirdly kind of a win now move for them, isn't it? I mean, I guess they've just accepted like this is the year we find out just how good Stroud is and like if we're going to give him a second contract or not, but like we're near the end of his rookie deal. They've already taken some big swings. I mean, the defense is Super Bowl ready. There's pieces there, but it's like a weirdly win now move for the Texans. I still kind of like it for him though, just because I really like David Montgomery, and I still do think he played really good football last year, even though he's getting a little bit older. I think he might have like one more good year in him, and maybe that's worth it. Maybe that's not, but I could get down with it. But no more Sonic and Knuckles. Yeah, like you're saying, Ruck Fools. No more Sonic and Knuckles. Yeah, that's tough. Combine heroes who turn out to be busts are your favorite subgenre in football discourse, Ron is saying. I mean, that could be an interesting stream one day, just like going through like the workout warriors, the combine heroes, Kevin White, anyone, you know? Yeah. All right. Well, Monty isn't lasting 2 years behind the Texans O-line. It is a tough assignment. Yeah. They'll need to shore things up a little bit more. It was at least better last year, but it better is like, oh, it's not the worst unit in the league, you know? Couple of other things that happened, though, that I want to hit on quickly. This was definitely the big one. Commanders releasing Marshawn Lattimore makes total sense, right? I mean, they're up against it with the cap as well. This is an aging team that's kind of got to pivot a little bit after going all in last year. Lattimore was a guy that they actually traded for a couple years ago during Daniel's rookie year. Just hasn't really panned out for him. I mean, he's dealt with injuries. He's a little bit older, too. Not quite the player he once was. I always think about him just getting absolutely fried in the playoffs. You know, I mean, man, like, and they won a lot of games, but he was a liability on that playoff team. It just makes sense for both sides. I don't think he's going to have a crazy market. I don't think he's going to, like, never play again, you know, but you can't be paying him that much. It makes total sense. They got to figure some stuff out, but he's on the market. Chiefs cut Jawan Taylor, too. Another cost-cutting measure, right? Again, this is another one of those teams. You just have to make some tough decisions right now, right? That Mahomes cap hit starting to, like, creep up a little bit, even with all the restructures, and they restructured again, like, a few weeks ago. But, you know, it's still getting a little bit larger. You still got to make some choices along the margins. Taylor's a fine player. He's not, like, amazing. He's like maybe a C plus B minus right tackle. Sure. Like if he's starting and you have like decent linemen around him, it's not like offensive, but he's not like amazing. Most people probably know him as being like Mr. False Start, which is kind of a funny legacy to have, but it's just one of the moves that they had to make, right? And they've got a lot of free agents coming up too. They got to start figuring out how they can maybe bring some of these guys back. And there's one player that we'll get to when we get to this free agency list that I actually really, really like for the Chiefs and I think makes a lot of sense. But, and then one last thing I wanted to hit. Of course, I got to throw my team in there too, right? Selfishly, I want to hit on the Vikings a little bit. But this was at least like a semi-notable move. Vikings announcing that they're going to cut Aaron Jones and Javon Hargrave unless they find a trade partner, which I'll be honest, maybe someone else can explain this for me. But this has always cracked me up. I don't get why they would announce this, right? Like, if you're a team that really wanted Aaron Jones, I guess the logic is like, oh, if we trade for him, we know we get him, and we don't have to get into a bidding war. But it's like, why would you say, like, oh, by the way, like, we're going to cut them? Like, I feel like that takes away a little bit of your leverage, doesn't it? Maybe not. I don't. There's probably a reason why. Because teams do this every year. There's probably a reason behind it. But, yeah, again, been saying this a lot, but another team that just has to make some tough decisions just to even get in the green as far as cap space goes. Some of it you can do through restructures and playing around and kicking the can down the road and all that funny money business, right? But look, Aaron Jones, fine player, still had a pretty good year last year, but just couldn't stay healthy. Aging back, hey, he's like 3 years older than Monty, right? Yeah, makes sense. He'll be like an unk somewhere, you know, like he's way more in the up there status than I think David Montgomery is. And then Javon Hargrave, another old player, signing that didn't really pan out. You know, it's kind of funny when also I'm tripping. You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? Hold on, I gotta fix my screen, dude. I don't know what it is. My brain is like not at 100% today. Um, I have been like switching my screen around the whole time and like pulling up stuff when I've been talking. Whatever, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. At least we didn't get to the free agent list and I'm like scrolling and it's not moving. Anyways, Hargrave had such an interesting season. First game against the Bears on Monday night, he had like 2 sacks, couple TFLs, and like 8 pressures. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I was not big on that signing, but then he had a great first game. I'm like, okay, like he's healthy, he's back, let's go. Nah, he was not good this year, man. He was a big liability in the run game. His explosiveness just hasn't aged well, right? When you're a gap shooting D tackle and your whole game is just like getting in the backfield and splash plays, but you're not always sturdy in the run game and your game is speed, speed, speed. Like, he's 33, he's had injuries, and he was already kind of one-dimensional. His game just hasn't aged well. I get why we're moving on from him. Just kind of a disappointing move last year. What can you do? But now that we've got that ironed out, sorry, I was like clicking around. I was trying to get like visual aids and like pull up the stories that I was talking about. I mean, whatever. If y'all are listening, it probably doesn't like make that big of a deal. But what can you do? But I gotta catch up with chat now, y'all. Y'all have been going off. I love it. Had some Darius Hayward Bay chatter. All-time workout warrior. Yeah, the Raiders took him like 11th overall. This was like the end of Al Davis's time there, which that's kind of morbid because but that was near the end of Al Davis's career. And he just was like, whoever runs the fastest 40, I'm taking him in the first round. Dude, he had some wild draft picks. Darius Hayward Bay, that's a good pull right there. Oh my gosh, John Ross, how about? I mean, dare I say Xavier Worthy a little bit, maybe? Just a little bit. There's always some crazy wide receiver that has like an insane 40, but then it's like, oh, they're 150 pounds and they can't beat press, But Kyler's going to be a Viking, Jack says. I don't know. I really don't know. And maybe not to rehash the whole KOC conversation from last year, but for KOC, he was like notorious for not wanting to change his offense and like wants to run the same thing across every single quarterback. We are going to run like the ChatGPT generated Sean McVay offense. Kyler Murray doesn't really seem like a schematic fit, and I'm just a little skeptical of us like overhauling our passing game for Kyler Murray's strengths, He's definitely the most talented guy out there. Schematically, I don't think it makes a lot of sense, and I don't think the Vikings would be a team that would like tinker to make it work, I don't know. But talking about Bengals O-line, yeah, the Bengals line is a little tough too. I mean, hey, at least like Mims came on a little bit this year. Now he finally got on the field some, but they've got their work cut out for him, man. Not just the line either, but no, I kind of do, Jack. I actually do kind of want Gino. Gino would be like the worst move in the world, but what's up, Henry? Appreciate you tuning in, man. I am doing well. It's springtime. NFL offseason is upon us. I'm excited for free agency. It's hard to believe. Next week, things are going to be kicking off with the whole legal tampering, which is really just the start of free agency. But dude, like by next week, this time, there will have been signings made. There will be like moves to talk about. So I'm very excited for that. Been doing my draft homework a little bit, getting ready for that. Life's good right now, man. I can't complain. But he's asking, who do I think is the best sneaky value add available in free agency this year? I've got a couple of them. And you know what? I think they both are in the back end of this free agency 101 that we're going to be hitting. And I'm sure I'll come up with a few more. Maybe this is very narrow-minded of me, but honest to goodness, the two that I can think of right now, coincidentally, are both Vikings. Eric Wilson and Jalen Nailor, I think, could be two really good pieces in free agency this year. And I mean, obviously, I'd love the Vikings to bring him back, but especially Jalen Naylor. I think he quietly had a really nice breakout season. The numbers aren't necessarily there, but man, he really popped. His route tree has grown a lot. He's more than just like a speed guy and a deep threat now. And his hands were a little bit more reliable this year, too. I think he could be like a really good wide receiver 3 in a good offense. And then Eric Wilson is just such a jack of all trades, do it all linebacker. There's not a lot of those in the league right now. He's so good as a blitzer. He was great with the Packers, too, before he came back to the Vikings. I think he'd be a great add for a lot of these teams as they sort of pivot. I hate to keep going back to, like, the Mike McDonald type of defense or whatever, but, like, I don't know. Like, you'd make a lot of sense for, like, the Ravens, honestly. If you want, like, a jack-of-all-trades guy that can do a little bit of everything, I think that'd be a great signing, and I think you could have him for like a decent price. One more guy I'll throw in there too is Romeo Doubs, who I've got a match made in heaven for him. There's one team I actually really want to see get Romeo Doubs. I think he'd be a good pickup too. Another one of those guys where it's like you feel really good about him if he's like third on your team in targets. So we'll say those 3. I don't know about Danny Dimes. He's got the injury history and everything. I don't know, man. Yeah. Ruck Fools is a Seahawks fan. Fairs, man. Fairs. Sam is a Super Bowl champ. Yo, Drake is in here as well. That's crazy. The actual Drake asking, who do I think the Giants pick at 5? Or more vaguely, what is the top 5 of the draft going to be? Any trades that I anticipate? Well, not to be lame, I think that'll be a question that I'll be more prepared to answer a few weeks from now. We will actually have our very own mock draft stream then, the Doc Mock. Do it every year. Super excited for it. If I had to like pick someone for the Giants at 5 though, I mean, without like a specific name, if they could address the secondary, that would be nice. In a perfect world, if Caleb Downs is there, that's sweet, right? We'll see if he makes it to 5. There's the whole positional value debate with him, but Caleb Downs to the Giants, I would feel great about. I know, I do say vague weirdly, which like I said in one of my videos, and I think probably at least like 25 comments were all about how I pronounced it. I know, there's a few words I say weirdly, but yeah. No, I actually don't hate Geno. As like, if the Vikings were really gonna like bring in a vet for competition, I would rather take a swing on Geno than Kirk, honestly. I did say Mike McDonald. All right. Let's just jump into it. We've beaten around the bush long enough. Let's pull up the Free Agent 101. If I can get my mouse to work. There we go. Some are saying this is the premier free agency power rankings. This is a good way to just kind of get a grasp on the class and take a look at who's going to be out there. And as I was saying earlier, honestly, I think this is a pretty good class. There's no like real true star players at the top of their game, but there never really is, right? This isn't like MLB where you can get like Bryce Harper in free agency or whatever. Free agency is always about making moves around the margins, right? Free agency is always about, getting a B- player on a really cheap deal, or, getting like a good solid starter that can like plug a weakness, Those are the best types of free agency moves in my opinion. Or taking a swing on a guy and it pays off, like a Zach Bond or a Sam Darnold, You can't always just like drop a crazy bag in free agency and be like, wow, we got the biggest names, we won, Sometimes it is about getting the Eric Wilsons and the Romeo Doubs of the world. Let's get into it. All right. Number 1 on this list, and again, we're not going to go through like every single player here. There's just a few guys I want to give my thoughts on. Maybe some guys that I think are going to be overvalued, undervalued, some team fits. Jack is saying, let's talk about Malik Willis. Let's talk about it. He is number 1 on this list. And I'm with you, Jack. I think this is absolutely crazy. I think there's a slight psychosis going on with Malik Willis right now. And I was going to say, like, I don't get it. Here's the thing. At least to an extent, I kind of get it. I kind of get why there's this much hype and buzz and why there's all this chatter that he's going to get paid like $35 million, right? I just don't agree with it. I get why, because he's 27 years old. He's a quarterback. He's got a strong arm. He can run. And he put out like some good tape this past year, and it is not a buyer's market for quarterbacks right now, right? Not in the draft or free agency, really. I mean, if you're not the Raiders, yeah, you're not getting a quarterback you feel great about in the draft, right? Unless you like really, really like Ty Simpson or something, which I don't know. Sure, whatever, right? There's not like any big quarterbacks out of Mendoza in the draft. And then in free agency, like outside of Malik Willis, it's Kirk, or you hope that you could trade for Kyler Murray or that he gets cut, right? There's not a lot of guys out there right now. And so just supply and demand, Malik Willis is kind of cool. There's always these coaches that think I can fix him. And so therefore, like, there's going to be demand because the supply is low. I think it's fair to ask, like, just how good is he really? Just how good is he really? Look, I think he played fairly well, all things considered, last year for the Packers, right? And he even got a little bit of action the year before. I also think it's fair to consider a couple of things. One, this is an incredibly small sample size that we were talking about here, right? I mean, I believe he only started one game last year, and they lost by like 20. And he was fairly impressive when he came in relief in the Bears game. And, you know, they went 2-0 with him, right? I will say I've seen a lot of things, though. Like, I've seen a lot of people talk about, like, wow, you know, like, there's all these Shanahan, LaFleur style offenses, and we saw Malik Willis run that type of offense. And so, like, therefore, if you're a team with a Shanahan type of offense, like, it's just plug and play. You know, you can run Kyle's offense with them. I think it's fair to say, look, and I get why he did it. Like, a good coach would do this. The Packers really, really scaled things back when Willis came in at quarterback. It was a very simplified offense, not a lot of complex reads, not a lot of difficult throws. It was nowhere close to the offense that they run with Jordan Love. There's a lot of easy buttons, a lot of easy outs, as well as like a lot of designery run stuff. If you're willing to do that, if you're, say, the Cardinals, sure, more power to you, right? Go for it. But we're talking about a dude who has started 3 games in the past 2 years in a very favorable situation where things were really just served up on a silver platter for him. And it's like, he was like kind of good, you know. Look, he completed 85% of his passes this season. But again, like, you have to look at like some of these throws. It was not a very difficult offense to run. He's a very good runner, and he does have a strong arm. But also, are we really about to pay him like $35 million and just be like, wow, like, let's give him Sam Darnold money? This is the same situation as Sam Darnold last year. I don't know, man. I think a team that probably would actually make the most sense for him, and it's not the Vikings. I don't know. Jack's saying he doesn't like the Cards, the Jets, or the Finns. The Cards, maybe. And if I had to make a prediction, I would honestly say maybe the Cardinals would be the team to get him, because it seems like there's the most smoke around him right now. You've got the LaFleur connection with Matt LaFleur's brother being the head coach there. They clearly are in the market for a quarterback, right? My rebuttal might be, okay, but is Malik Willis really better than Kyler Murray? I can't necessarily agree with that, right? But I think, like, that might be my prediction. And Henry, I'm curious about your take on this. I honestly think the team that might make the most sense for Malik Willis is the Atlanta Falcons. Penix is hurt right now. He's kind of a question mark. You don't really know what his future is like there. You're for sure at least going to keep him around. But, like, well, I don't know. If you brought in Malik Willis, it might be, like, over for Penix because, like, oh, they brought in another young quarterback, right? But I could totally envision just a beautiful running game with Willis and Bijan Robinson. I think that would be sick. Willis has a strong arm that can push the ball downfield. Maybe not the most accurate passer ever, but it goes well with big-bodied receivers like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. You know, and it's almost like Willis would get an early audition because Penix is like maybe out the first month of the season. Willis comes in. Obviously, if he plays great, you keep him in. If not, you have an easy pivot point back to Penix. Call me crazy. The one team I think that would actually make the most sense for Malik Willis would be the Atlanta Falcons. That being said, I still wouldn't necessarily advocate for paying him like $35 million. Like, I think that's crazy. I think that's way too much money, you know? Henry thinks that him getting 30 million seems like a terrible move. I think like he's getting overvalued, and it's just the position that he plays, right? But I do think he's getting overvalued. If he were, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. If he were to get paid like 15 million, if this was like a Baker Mayfield to the Bucks type of deal, or a Geno Smith to the Seahawks type of deal, or is like a true like lottery scratch off, like we're just gonna see what we have in this guy for a year. I think that actually makes sense. If he was getting like half the money that he's probably gonna get, I would be way more on board with this. But for him to get that much money, and I'm sorry, Greg, but brother, for him to be number one on your list, brother, come on. No, we're not doing this, man. So that's my Malik Willis take. I can almost see the vision, but I think let's settle down just a tiny bit. All right. He started one game. Come on now. I don't know. The Jets, maybe. I mean, the Jets, see, that's the thing. I said the Falcons would be a team that would make a lot of sense. But also, like, if the Jets paid him like $20 million, sure, let's rock. I like the offensive line. I like the running game. I like the receivers there. Sure. You know what? Pay him $20 million and just like see what happens for a year. You're probably not competing anyways, but like not to have this expectation that he's going to be like your guy going forward. That makes sense. But that's probably not what's going to happen. If the Jets were going to bring him in, they would pay him too much. And that's not what they should do. I think Willis might be a tad better than Justin Fields. But also, they just, that's true. They just did the thing with Justin Fields last year. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If the Vikings sign Willis, then there's like JJ's out. I think the writing is kind of on the wall with JJ a little bit when you hear just like everything that's been said about him. I think he might already be gonzo. But you're right, Jack. There are already reports about JJ not being the long-term answer there. He really kind of is. No, you're right, Jack. Willis really is getting more hype than Darnold did last year. That's true. And Henry's asking, when was the last time a backup quarterback got so much free agency hype? I love that question because I think you'd have to go back, at least off the top of my head, I would say go back to 2012, Matt Flynn, right? Aaron Rodgers backup on the Packers, came in for one start at the end of the season against the Lions, threw for like 450 yards, gets the bag from the Seahawks, and then he doesn't even start a game for him. Dude, low key, tell me this isn't Matt Flynn. Tell me this isn't Matt Flynn all over again. Bro, yeah. I love that. I love that question because you can really draw the parallel there. Tell me this isn't Matt Flynn all over again. I don't know, man. I don't know. Excuse me. Would be funny to see the Falcons go 0 for 3 on QBs. Dude, ever since Matt Ryan, man, it's been miss after miss. Well, I guess just a couple of misses, but still, yeah. Remember when they had Mariota as their QB for a year? I guess. Yeah, I mean, the Falcons don't necessarily have the money to. Maybe that's the biggest thing holding them back. I think from a personnel and scheme standpoint, that might actually get me like somewhat excited though if Willis went to ATL, but we'll see. Number 2, we've got George Pickens. We'll talk about him a tiny bit. We already talked about him. He got franchise tagged. If you're Dallas, just get a deal done, please. He's so good in this offense, dude. He and Dak have such a good connection. He and CD complement each other so well. I know it's a lot of money you're investing into your offense, but the offense is so sick when they're all out there. Please just get it done, man. I need to see this. I need to see this trio play again for a few more years. He's blossomed as a route runner. Like, he's become such a complete player. He's nowhere close to the player he was coming out of college. Like, there's a lot more refinement to his game now. He's so good, dude. He's like a borderline top 10 receiver. He is phenomenal. Please, Dallas, just get the job done, man. Just bring him back. Ruck Fools is asking, how do I feel about reports saying the Eagles are interested in replacing A.J. Brown with Mike Evans? I also saw some chatter earlier in chat about like a potential A.J. Brown trade. Jack, I think you're saying like there's no shot how he does it, right? There's been a little bit of smoke about it. Been a little bit of chatter. I mean, there's been rumors about it for a minute now. It's always been an interesting relationship there. A.J. Brown has already been part of one shock trade. I still stand by the opinion that I gave back in like January, in that, look, you got to try and figure out a way to keep him, right? Like, he's just too good of a player to move on from. And if it ultimately gets to he's just not happy with his role in the offense and he wants more money and he's not going to play there, then sure, you have to trade him, right? Like, he could end up getting leverage, but if you're Philly, you have to try. I mean, we have seen just such high success with him out there. I mean, when it works, it's literally a Super Bowl winning team when it works, right? With the running game, and then for A.J. Brown to be the vertical threat that he is and just like dunk on defenders over the top. You can't put too much effort into him with like double teams and like playing safety super far back because you have to worry about the run game. I mean, it's a pick your poison type of situation. And I do think Devontae Smith is like good enough to be a one in his own right. But isn't life just a little bit sweeter when he's like the best two in the league, you know? I don't know. I think you got to try and keep him still. I'll believe it when I see it. And like replacing AJ Brown with Mike Evans, I feel like that's just such an obvious downgrade. Like that would just make the Eagles such a worse team. Not that Mike Evans is horrible, but we're talking about AJ Brown, who's probably a top 5 receiver, to a guy who has a very similar game, but is a lot older and is just not as good. You know, I think that would be tough, but we'll see. I mean, we've seen crazier trades before. It's not the best relationship ever. Even like Eagles management is being like kind of mysterious about it. Like, well, we'll see. He's on the team right now, you know. I'll believe it when I see it, though. Jack is saying, did I hear that Caleb Downs might have just tore his ACL? They're saying he has a degenerative knee issue. Really? Okay, I got to look this up. And you know what? Maybe you got me. Maybe you got me again. Flagged with significant knee issue at the NFL Combine 24 minutes ago, an hour. Oh, this was an hour ago. Sports Illustrated had a story 2 hours ago. No, I did not see this. Whoa. I mean, for my money, he's the best player in the draft, right? This is massive. Oh, no. Partially with torn meniscus, potentially degenerative ACL. Whoo. All right, well, this is a situation we'll be monitoring. That's not good, man. 3 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. Yeah, it's all coming out now. That is not good. That sucks, dude. He's such a good player. Man. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but we'll see. That's not good. Jack is saying AJ is not a top 5 receiver. He'd take Jefferson, Chase, JSN, Puka, Lamb, and Amon-Ra. Give me AJ Brown over St. Brown and maybe CeeDee Lamb. I don't know, dude. AJ Brown is such a baller, and I just love his game so much, too. There ain't too many receivers these days that are built like AJ Brown. I would say for sure I would take him over St. Brown. No disrespect. I think St. Brown's a great player. I might take him over CD, too. That one's tough, though, because, I mean, they're just two very different players, right? They do two very different jobs. I might argue AJ Brown over CeeDee Lamb, though. I don't know. But okay, if he's not top 5, he's like at worst top 8. I think we can at least agree on that, right? You'd never joke on an injury? True. You know what? True. Fair point. Dante Moore came back to Oregon just to avoid the Jets, only end up... Excuse me. Good Lord. You think this is bad? Dude, I was coughing so much this weekend. It's crazy. I've been trying to like take my cough drops and everything, but... I mean, he might. It's a good quarterback class. They'll have their pick. They always say next year's class is better, right? But like actually next year's quarterback class is better. All right. Man, we're only on 3 again. We're not going to be hitting every single one, right? Jalen Phillips. Oh, dude. Player that I've always loved. Man, he's just never been able to catch a break as far as injuries go, but he's such a good pass rusher when he's out there. Man, 27 years old, kind of in the prime of his career right now, is finally healthy, had an awesome year. Yeah. I think he's going to get a lot of money, and rightfully so. I agree with Greg here, having him as the top edge on the market. They've got Trey Hendrickson at 6 as well. He's the other big name out there if you're looking for a pass rusher. I agree with having Phillips over Hendrickson, not just for age, but I think Phillips was just a better player than Hendrickson was last year, and he's a little bit more complete, which I always like. I always like those edges that are just like stout against the run. Phillips offers a little bit more in that aspect. This is an interesting one. I could see him coming back to Philly. He's got a great relationship with Vic Fangio, and he played so well there. And, Philly's taking some hits along the line. Like, they definitely need some guys up front. Bringing back Phillips is, like, the easiest way to go about that. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, a team that would make sense for him in the sense of, like, you'd probably be looking at a contender that has the need for pass rush. Like, that seems like the best fit, right? Like, take a big swing. This is a guy that's going to, like, put us over the top. One team that I could see, and they'd have to probably get creative with the money to make it work, but, like, the Buffalo Bills, that makes a lot of sense because their lack of a four-man rush has just been killing them for years now, right? Bringing in Phillips makes a lot of sense. If the Bills could, like, move enough money around to make that work, that's a move that I like. We'll say the Bills for Jalen Phillips. Yeah, he stays in the AFC East after being with the Dolphins for a little bit. Yeah. The commies throw money at Phillips and draft edge. Yeah, I mean, that's true. They do like to throw their money, and they do need a pass rush. Commanders bringing in Jalen Phillips. I do think they'll be, like, surprisingly active in free agency. That's just kind of how they go about things, but he's a good player, right? You got to fix your defense somehow. Bringing in the best, I would agree, the best defender in the class. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Tyler Linderbaum is at 4. Jack is saying he thinks he's the number 1 free agent. Not often a 3-time Pro Bowl center hits free agency at 26. All very good, very valid points. I'd probably agree with you. Yeah, Linderbaum is pretty good. I wouldn't go as far to say as like Linderbaum is like an all-pro caliber center. He had a bit of a down year last year. Granted, I think a lot of that you can chalk up to the guards that he was playing in between of just were not very good. But he's been a very good center at the very least every single year he's been in the NFL. He's 26 years old. Center, I just become more and more center-pilled every season. Such an important position with all the responsibility that they have, setting protections, organizing the offensive line, building that relationship with the quarterback. You could talk me into him being the best free agent in this class, for sure. Yeah, and it's a good position, even though like center is not necessarily valued in the draft or with like contracts. Like, it's a very valuable position. I've seen the Vikings linked to him. I don't think that's going to happen, dude. I don't think we have the money, and I think we would lose a bidding war. I could see the Ravens bringing him back, honestly. I know they didn't pick up his fifth-year option because of the whole weird thing of, like, fifth-year options. It goes across all offensive linemen, and so, like, he would have been making way more money than any other center, and it would have, like, broken the market. It's a stupid thing, but it makes sense for the Ravens at least. So, yeah, man. I don't know, like... I'm trying to, I didn't like have like too many matches made in my head going into this one. I've got a few that I can't wait to talk about that we'll get to in a little bit. Linderbaum, honestly, the boring answer, but it's probably like, you probably just go back to Baltimore, right? I mean, they need to keep someone on their offensive line. They've got quite a few guys that are hitting the open market. Falele and Voorhees, I think, are both free agents. And then between those three, Linderbaum is clearly the best player. You're fine with letting those two walk and keeping Linderbaum. They could make it happen. We'll say he sticks with the Ravens. I'm going to cough. I'm going to cough again. Alec Pierce at 5. Low-key. I'm looking at some of these other free agent wide receivers here. It's not a crazy wide receiver class, especially with Pickens being franchise tagged. I guess Pierce is probably the best wide receiver on the market. And it's funny because I feel like the prevailing take about Alec Pierce is that he's underrated and people are going to be surprised with how much money he gets. And I think, like, depending on who you ask, sure, maybe Alec Pierce is underrated. But he's also so underrated to the point where he's like maybe slightly overrated. Number 5. I don't know. He's still very much like a one-trick pony in that he's told Deshaun Jackson, and it's a cool thing to have, right? You could argue he's the best deep threat in the NFL. Not saying he's a bad player whatsoever, but I mean, like, isn't Michael Pittman a free agent too, or at least like he could be, or like the Colts might trade him or something? Like, I've seen so many things about how the Colts are going to move on from Michael Pittman and keep Alec Pierce, and it's like, I think Pittman's better, and he plays a more important role in that offense than Pierce does. I think it's low-key a little bit easier to find a player like Alec Pierce than it would be like a Michael Pittman. And if you want to look at like big picture of this whole free agent class, even though I think Alec Pierce might be a slightly better player than Romeo Doubs, who we can go down to at 28, I think Doubs maybe is a more valuable player and like fits more offenses, or is like a player that more offenses are looking for, versus an Alec Pierce where, like, honestly, you could find a deep threat specialist in the draft pretty easily, I feel like, right? If I was an NFL team, I would probably rather sign Doubs at the money that he's going to get than Pierce at the money he's going to get. Or if you want a deep threat, I mean, you could get Rashid Shaheed too, you know? I was talking about I might highlight some players who I think might get like slightly overvalued. This is so funny because, again, like, I feel like the narrative, like, most people would say, like, he's so underrated, like, he's so undervalued. I don't know, man. If the Titans paid him like $28 million, like, I think that might be a bit much. That might be a bit much. He's a good player, but come on, I don't know about that, man. Jack thinks Ayuk is the best wide receiver on the market. I mean, if he's healthy and he's locked in, I agree with you. Brandon Ayuk is an unbelievable player. I love Brandon Ayuk, or at least like the idea of what he could be, right? I don't think that's crazy. If you want to like take a swing at wide receiver, bring in Brandon Ayuk, sit him down and be like, hey, get in the gym, right? Like, get on the practice field, stop doing these dumb Instagram lives or whatever, and get healthy. He's absolutely at his best. He's a better player than any other receiver out there. It's just the risk that comes with it. That's not a terrible take, though. I could get down with that. In a pipe dream, the Seahawks. Oh, talking about Linderbaum. Oh, that'd be nice. Linderbaum to the Raiders, I'd like to. You know what? I like that. That's an underrated trope. Something that I've really fallen in love with over the past couple of years. Pairing your rookie quarterback with a veteran center, I like that a lot. Raiders or Giants? Yeah, I like that. Giants need a center. John Michael Schmitz has not been cutting it, to say the least. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe the Chargers. He's got that Harbaugh connection. Although I'm curious, like, I'm really curious how the Chargers offensive line is going to look like with Mike McDaniel in there now. They're going to want athletes, which Linderbaum is. You know, maybe Linderbaum to the Chargers makes a lot of sense, too. If it's not the Ravens, I like the Raiders and the Chargers a lot for Tyler Linderbaum. Ooh, Linderbaum to the Chargers. That could be fun. I like that. Getting him out in space in that Mike McDaniel running game. Here we go. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. Tyler Linderbaum to the Chargers. I kind of hope that happens now. Hendrickson at 6. Yeah, he... I don't want to say like he fell off too much. A lot of it you can just chalk up to injury. But again, he's getting a little bit older. He's getting up there. Also, I do not like how the NFL.com site is laid out. Oh, this just doesn't look good. Sorry. But, I mean, 4 sacks again. He played like half a season. But, a year ago, this was kind of the narrative that I was trying to push a little bit. Like, it's foolish to say, like, just assume that he's going to get 17 sacks again, right? Injuries, you kind of have to bake that in now at age 31. Falling off a little bit, you kind of have to bake that in now at age 31. Low-key, I'm so mean to this team. But honestly, this would be very on brand for them. We were talking about, like, maybe the fit of, like, Jalen Phillips going to the Commies. No, Trey Hendrickson going to the Commanders. That's a very Commanders signing. Trey Hendrickson. They, like, pay a lot of money for Trey Hendrickson. That's so going to happen. That's so going to happen. Trey Hendrickson to the Washington Commanders. That's my match right there. Spiritually, it makes sense. And I will be fair. It does fill a need. And, like, you could do a lot worse. But, yeah. We'll hit the top 10, maybe. And then we'll just, like, get to some of these guys that intrigue me. Like, I don't have a crazy AVT take. My biggest AVT take is I hope the Jets bring him back because their offensive line would be so sick if they had him. Kenneth Walker. I was actually workshopping this in my head a little bit. We're bouncing around. It's like, what if the Texans signed Kenneth Walker too? And their backfield next year was K9 and David Montgomery. Hey, do you see the vision with that a little bit? That's a lot to invest in at running back, but if you really want to get your running game off the ground, I don't know. Maybe they should put that money in offensive line instead, but wouldn't that be a cool backfield? Monty and K9, I'd like that a lot. I will say, as far as Kenneth Walker goes, kind of to tie into what I was talking about earlier with like the relationship between Gibbs and Montgomery and like having that battering ram back and how it's so important, even if like the yards per carry doesn't always even out or whatever. Whatever team does sign Kenneth Walker, they better have a good plan to get a back to complement him too. Not that Walker isn't good enough to be a full-time back, but it just makes things so much easier when you've got that power guy to go at the speed. I mean, Zach Charbonnet, I wouldn't say is as good as Kenneth Walker, but he's as important to the Seahawks because of how he was able to just absorb these tough carries, these brutal body blows, and then Walker comes in and rips off like a sick 35-yard run, If you're a team that's in the market for K9, you gotta have a complement ready. Best fit is definitely the Seahawks, right? I mean, yeah, absolutely. I know John Schneider was trying to like negotiate with them while they were just hammered at their Super Bowl parade, but I mean, yeah, it's just that's the struggle of being a good team, right? When you've got this guy's a free agent, I mean, 3 straight Seahawks are all free agents. There's a hard cap in the NFL. You can't sign them all, But they bring back Von Miller and pair him with Hendrickson. Yeah. Yeah, true. They were on the market, weren't they? Yeah, checks out. Devin Lloyd, Jack is saying dream fit would be the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, I like that. Get another linebacker in there, right? Roquan's coming off a down year. They're looking for that guy to play alongside him, too. Devin Lloyd is not just this past year, but the year before, too. Devin Lloyd has played some really good football. I'm with you, Greg. Really, third season was like when he started to break out. And then fourth year, the splash plays and the takeaways came. But on a down-to-down basis, he was playing just as good in year 3, too. Really good linebacker. And again, scarcity at this position. I think Devin Lloyd is going to get paid a lot of money. And he's a pretty good player, so I can understand that. Ravens, I like. I could see that. Seahawks, you're talking about, true. Maybe just worry about the money with all that. Man, I mean, I'm trying to think of what other. I mean, a lot of teams could use a linebacker right now, I don't know that the Jaguars will bring him back too. That's the other thing. They've got some tough decisions to make. Maybe the Chicago Bears? I don't know. Oh, sleeper team for Kenneth Walker, maybe. Chicago Bears. That was another take that I had. Sleeper team for Kenneth Walker, Chicago Bears. Look, DeAndre Swift was a little bit better than I thought he would be, and he is that speed back to Monongai's Thunder. Oh, but Ben Johnson wants to get a little extra juice in the backfield, doesn't he? And Walker, going from Swift to Walker would be a substantial upgrade. I think that's a sleeper team for Kenneth Walker, who I think 10 might be a little bit low for him on this list. I think he's better than Daniel Jones, right? And maybe you could argue like you're baking in positional value, but I think he's a better player than Daniel Jones. I think he's a better player than Alec Pierce and Malik Willis, I kind of like Kenneth Walker to the Bears a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. Odafe Owe, he quietly had a breakout year too. He was nice with the Chargers. I think it'd be funny if he went back to the Ravens because he really broke out under Jesse Minter with the Chargers and now Minter's with the Ravens. Like, look, that'd be kind of funny, but I could actually see that making sense. Jones, I think, will be back with the Colts. That's your top 10. David Edwards, underrated player. David Edwards and Connor McGovern, two Bills offensive linemen, both free agents. I think that's something to monitor. Their line has been so good for a while now, and potentially losing two starters could be a big blow to Buffalo. I think Edwards is going to have a big market. Maybe the Jaguars, kind of like that for him, trying to beef up the offensive line a little bit. They've got the means to maybe make a big move or two. This could be their big move. Jaguars for David Edwards. I kind of like that. Also, Cade Otton to the Jaguars. You know, you've got that Liam Cohen connection. Where is he? Okay, here's what I wanted to talk about. Again, good running back class. A lot of good options out there. Travis Etienne, while he's not like the best player ever, he's maybe a little bit more of like a specialized player, and he's an explosive runner, and he's like almost exclusively zone, right? You're not going to get him running downhill. You're going to be running zone when Travis Etienne is out there. I don't think the Jaguars are going to bring him back for that reason. I think Cohen wants to kind of diversify the run game a little bit more and get a little bit closer to what they had when he was with the Bucs, where it's a little bit of zone, but you've also got a lot of gap scheme going on. And, you know, you got Bucky Irving going downhill a little bit. That being said, fit that I actually really like for Travis Etienne. Jack is saying the Steelers. I like that. That makes sense. You're looking at an Arthur Smith offense. You got to get some juice in that backfield. Maybe you think that he adds a little bit more pop than Jaylen Warren. I don't hate that. I think that's a solid fit. My best fit for Etienne, Kansas City Chiefs. This is a team that desperately needs to get faster and more explosive, especially in the run game. They need some juice in that backfield, man. As fun as Pacheco has been, injuries have just kind of cooked him, and he's never really been an explosive runner to begin with. I mean, a little bit, but, you know. Look, it got to the point where, like, when Brashard Smith would come into the game last year, it felt like just such a breath of fresh air. And I like Brashard Smith a decent amount, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a dude who was like a 7th-round pick, former wide receiver. But when he came in the game, and just like, oh my gosh, it's not Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. Like, this is awesome. They've got a guy that can actually move a little bit and is actually a little bit more suited to this almost exclusively zone run game that Andy Reid runs. Travis Etienne fits like a glove in this offense, and he's exactly what they need. If you're the Chiefs and you don't want to take Jeremiah Love at 9, or if Jeremiah Love isn't even out there at 9, Etienne is the guy. I like Etienne to the Chiefs a lot. I think that makes a ton of sense. So that's the fit that I like. But I could get down with Etienne to the Steelers too. There's Con McGovern, another Bills offensive lineman. John Franklin Myers, he's been a favorite of mine for a minute. Dude, that's another one of those glue guys, honestly, and like maybe a sneaky value add. He's not the biggest name, but he's so good at what he does. He is the perfect interior defensive lineman on a 3-4. Not like a nose tackle, but you know what I'm saying, right? Dude, he's so good at what he does. I mean, selfishly, I'd love like him to just stay with the Broncos because he fits perfectly there, and that defense kicks tail. But we'll see if he has the money. Maybe some speculation he goes to the Titans. Yeah. Reunite with Robert Saleh. Sure. But yeah, I love him a lot. Another fit that I really like that I want to hit on. We're zooming through things here now a little bit. And I'm sure we'll circle back to some of these guys next week when we go live for the Free Agent Frenzy stream, where we'll actually have signings to talk about, stuff to react to. This is all just like speculation, kind of previewing the class a little bit, right? Romeo Doubs is a guy I got my eyes on. He's another guy who I think could be a really good value, who I would almost rather pay his market value than Alec Pierce, right, to rehash that take. The fit that I like for Romeo Doubs is the Las Vegas Raiders. I kind of had the Raiders in the market for an outside X receiver last year during the draft. I mocked Tedero McMillan to him. I thought that just makes so much sense with, you've got Bowers there who's kind of a tight end, but really he's just a slot receiver, but he works the middle of the field, having that guy on the outside so things just don't feel so tight and congested. They did draft a receiver last year, but it was Jack Besh. Again, more of a slot guy. Get him on the move as the Z a little bit. But again, just a little tight and contested. You want that guy on the boundary to give this offense space to breathe. Not just for the passing game, but the running game. I mean, look at some of the fronts that Ashton Genty was going up against last year. Some of that you can chalk up to the bad offensive line and just the bad structure, sure. But they didn't have a real guy out there on the outside. You drop in Romeo Doubs to this Raiders offense, all of a sudden you're at Doubs as the X. You've got Trey Tucker as your Z. Jack Bash is your slot Z hybrid. And then Brock Bowers is your slot tight end hybrid. All of a sudden, across this board, this receiver room starts to make a little bit more sense. And then on top of that, you're just assuming at this point Fernando Mendoza is going to be the quarterback there, right? After finally diving in and watching Mendoza, I think Doubs complements his game so well with all the throws that he does to the boundary, the go balls down the sideline, the out-breaking routes, the in-breaking routes. You're looking at a lot of deep outs, a lot of corner routes, and then you can also snap on the dig routes as well. Doubs is really good at all that stuff from the outside boundary receiver position. I think that's such a beautiful fit on all these different levels. I think he could be gotten at a decent price. And maybe, just maybe, I could slightly talk myself into the Raiders again next year. But I think Romeo Doubs to the Raiders, more than anything else, that is one of my dream signings for this free agency. It just scratches a part of my brain. It just makes sense. It just makes me happy. Cleveland I like too. They always need more receivers, right? And they have a similar problem too, where, okay, they've got Fannin. That's cool. They've got Judy. That's cool. Maybe you're working him out of the slot a little bit more. That's really what's been working for him. Get that guy on the outside. Getting that back shoulder guy, exactly. Getting that back shoulder guy, that guy on the outside, that X receiver that can beat press coverage and, win on in-breaking routes. And, there's not a lot of those old school type of guys these days. And so, I don't know. Doubs is kind of valuable. I really, really like that fit. Eagle Eyes likes it too. Let's go. Dude, this is genuinely probably my favorite fit of all of free agency right here. Browns logo is a Guardian cap. Yeah. Yeah, use the face of the Guardian cap. That's true. Yeah. That's awesome. Isaac Seumalo. I don't have a team in mind for him necessarily. Maybe the Jaguars again. Just a team that needs interior offensive line. Really good player, though. He's 32, so he's getting up there. Always been one of my guys. Great player. We might hit a few more here. Oh, Chiga Okonkwo. Yeah. Chiga Okonkwo. What would be a good fit for him? Because I do think, there's just so much talent to work with here. No disrespect, but I'd love to see him outside of Tennessee and find him on a team that could maybe unlock him a little bit more. I mean, what about the Steelers? And they just run 4 tight end offenses. Back with Arthur Smith. Chiga Okonkwo, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington. Those would be the Steelers receivers next year. No, if they didn't already have 3 tight ends they felt really good about, I would love that fit just because him back with Arthur Smith would make me happy. But I don't know. What? Because here's the thing. I do feel like the tight end market will be pretty good just because more teams are going to want to emulate that 13 personnel stuff, all these different tight ends, stuff that the Seahawks are doing, stuff that the Rams are doing. Teams are going to try and get in on that. It's a copycat league. I just, for the life of me, cannot think of a team that could use that complimentary tight end right now. Maybe the 49ers, honestly. Maybe the 49ers. I like that. Okonkwo and Kittle would be a lot of fun. Screw it. Chiga Okonkwo to the 49ers. Why not? Kobe Bryant. Yeah, dude. And then you got Woolen right behind him too, you know? Woolen is definitely like maybe one of the biggest mysteries of this free agency class because he's always flashed a little bit, right? But I love the way it's described, like that sequence in the NFC Championship game where he makes an unbelievable play on third down to get the stop, but then he gets a taunting call on him, and then the very next play, Stafford goes deep on his head for a touchdown. Like, unbelievable talent, but just got to lock in a little bit. Any other guys that really jump out to me? I mean, again, like here's the thing. I'm scrolling through a lot of these guys, but I really think this is a very good free agency class. A lot of good starters. Like, if you could get Leo Chanel at a good price, I like that a lot. If you could get Nick Cross at a good price, I feel great about that, you know? Cam Curl, great safety, right? Just like a good B player, you know? There's a lot of guys out here that I like, even though I'm just like scrolling by them. Kelsey's probably going to go back to the Chiefs if we're realistic, right? Let's be real. Respectfully, I think Deshaun Wright, 55 might be a little bit fair for him. I think he's a little overvalued. I'm sorry. He's kind of a lucky turnover merchant a little bit. He's not like a bad player, but like there are people that were upset he wasn't all pro last year. It's like, come on, man. Come on. We all know what we saw out there. Then there's this guy. Whatever. I'm sure the Vikings will sign him. Rodgers. If I had to guess, he'll be back with the Steelers. Wait. Dude, I'm tripping. Arthur Smith is not with the Steelers anymore. I'm crazy. Arthur Smith is most certainly not with the Steelers anymore. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator at Ohio State because the Steelers have Mike McCarthy now. Yeah. All right, Chigakoko is definitely not going to the Steelers now. Rodgers will probably be back with Pittsburgh. There's Job. 65 feels low for Job. He's good. I don't care for Job. That's a Arrested Development bit. I do care for Josh Job. Jack wants the Hawks to keep Bryant so bad. Him and Job. Deshaun Wright on the Hawks would be awesome. No, I think if you drop him into like a secondary with a lot of depth around him and you're not expecting him to be your CB1, that makes a lot more sense, right? If you drop him into a spot where he can just kind of play the ball and like hunt for takeaways, sure, that makes a lot more sense. And maybe if you're Seattle, you swap out Woolen for Wright and like try and save a little bit on the margins there. I get that. Kobe Bryant's good though, and he just fits that Seattle defense attitude so well. I love the way he plays, dude. He's good. Yeah. Any other guys here? Jalen Naylor's a guy I was highlighting. I'd love the Vikings to bring him back. I'm not going to count on it, but I do think there's a pretty good player in there. I think he could be, this is like maybe a silly take, but I think he could be like a really good wide receiver 3. I think he'd be if he's your wide receiver 3, but if he was like 4th on your team in targets, I think you feel great. It's like that's like a perfect spot for him. He's good. I like him. Yeah. Oh yeah, Taylor just got added to the fray. We got some unks. Al-Qadim Muhammad had a nice little breakout year, but like I think some of those sacks might have been a little phony. Yeah, it's a good class. It's pretty deep though, right? We're down at 97. I love Eric Wilson a lot. Man, I think 97 is way too low for him. Tyler Algier at 100 is crazy. Like, honestly, I was talking about like pairing that wrecking ball back with K9. If you're a team, if you did like Algier and K9 as a package deal, I like that a lot too. Algier is a really good back. 100 is crazy. I think he's so much better than that. You're really going to tell me Marcus Mariota is a more desirable free agent than Tyler Algier? You're really going to tell me Ed Ingram is a more desirable free agent than Tyler Algier? I don't know about that, man. Clowney in the Big 26? Yeah. I will say, though, to be fair, Greg does have a bit with the 101 spot on the list always being like a fun, weird pick, like Not necessarily like, sure, I'm sure whoever would theoretically be at 102 is better, but just it's the last spot on the list. Just someone fun to throw in, like, oh, by the way, remember this guy? He's a free agent. But I agree. Like the quarterbacks are valued a little bit too much on this. I'm with you on that. But yeah, man, that's the free agency 101. Algier, good value. Good class, strong class. I'm super excited to see how things shake out though, honestly. I think even like a week from now, a few hours into legal tampering, we are going to have an abundance to talk about and an abundance to react to. It's almost like nice that there's not a lot of huge names at the top because then it's not going to feel like as big of a letdown when they don't hit the open market. It's not like, oh, so and so like didn't make it to free agency because they just got signed up right away. Like a lot of these guys actually will hit free agency and there will be bidding wars on a lot of these guys. So I think that makes it a little bit more exciting. But my voice is like starting to go again. I could feel my throat getting scratchy. I am going to wrap things up here though. We hit some of the news. We looked at the free agent class. I shared a few of the fits that I liked. Had some good conversations with y'all in chat. And as always, it was a pleasure for y'all to join in here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We will be back again next week. One of my favorite shows of the year, live reaction to Free Agent Frenzy. Same time next week. Let's go, baby. We're here for it. Rest up. Take care. You too, man. I appreciate it. And maybe, just maybe, this time next week, that video will be almost out because we're grinding on that too. But see you later, Eagle Eyes. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate all of y'all. It was a good time, as always. Always a smile plastered on my face. When I wrap up my stream, my cheeks always hurt a little bit because I just can't help but beam when I do this. Truly, though, genuinely. So, with that, y'all take care. I will see y'all next week, and we'll have a lot to talk about. Let's go, baby.